Yes. Welcome to the Sands Fitness Podcast. My name is Joff Bunt, head coach here at Sands Fitness, and I'm joined with none other than One Take Tommy, Coach Tom Henderson.
Yes.
How are you, mate?
I'm here. Good. How are you?
Stealing the yes line.
You're the yes man.
Thanks for everybody who tuned in last week. Got some nice feedback from that, and we thought we'd give it another try. So again, hopefully you can hear us and can get some good information from this. But we thought we'd talk to you today, and we'll keep it nice and short and brief, but just a little bit about the principles of training. And that might not mean anything to you right now, but I'm sure once you've heard us speak a little bit and we've brought a few things up, it'll make a little bit more sense. But basically, it's kind of these principles of training already incorporated into the plan that we do that is CrossFit. So it's already kind of built in there for you. But it's just good that you get a little bit of knowledge from it and realise why we do certain things within the programming. So we've got it kind of listed down. We've got five to six things that we're going to get through. And the first one I'll get Tommy to just speak a little bit about is specificity. Can just about say that.
Specificity. Yeah. So, all right, specificity. This is it's taking me way back to the university days when we were learning about training principles and how to design programs and for athletes. But obviously with CrossFit, like we mentioned last week, GPP or general physical preparedness is CrossFit's main goal. You know, the general and the wider community, people come in, and if they have a solid fitness base, then they should be able to tackle and achieve any task that they want to do in their day-to-day lives. But specificity-wise, obviously, the season that we're in now, like open season, we have to start tapering our workouts that are based around what open workouts will be. Like we spoke about, generally open workouts are fairly light to moderate kind of weight, fast pace, lots of gymnastics movements, lots of volume, lots of barbell cycling, and a few high skills in there. I know like in recent times they brought the handstand push-up in. Muscle ups have been there from the start. So yesterday in the class we're working on some muscle up progressions, hopefully getting people a little bit closer. But the training has to be slightly specific to the season that we're in, which is obviously the open season. And then once open season's done, you know, we might move into a more strength-based season. And typically that happens towards the end of the year. I know at the end of last year we kind of moved into that with also, building a solid foundation. We're doing lots of long endurance-y type workouts as well. So we're just building that capacity before the start of the year. So we did get slightly specific, or we're getting specific now with our training.
Yeah, I think that's good, and that rounds up in terms of like CrossFit as well. But you know, it starts even simpler than that as well in terms of, hey, if you're going to go and run a race, you're going to run a marathon, you're preparing for that, you need to go and run. Yes, you can do other forms of exercise to kind of get you fitter, but running is ultimately the thing that you need to do. Now that sounds really obvious, but Tom can join in with this as well. If someone is preparing for a race, should they just do running, or can they start to incorporate other stuff as well?
Yeah, definitely. And the biggest thing that I saw with CrossFit when I initially started, we had a lot of guys and girls kind of in like their late 30s, 40s, and they used to do lots of triathlons. They're like, yeah, you know, I just haven't done a triathlon for about 2 years now, but I've just been training CrossFit. And then what happened when they went back, they're like, hey, maybe it's time to do a triathlon again. And they knocked 10 minutes off their time, off their previous best when they were solely just doing running, cycling, and swimming. So yes, before they did the triathlon, they went back and did that stuff, but their overall fitness base was at a much higher point. So exactly like Joff said, like if you're going to run and do a race of some sort, you have to go and run. But if your entire fitness base is just a couple of notches higher than it was previously, then everything else is going to be so much easier.
Yeah, that's good. So we'll move on. The next one is progression. So progression within training. Now, that sounds like an obvious one, and for me, that's a really important one, and I feel like it's lacking, especially when someone first comes into the gym environment or the CrossFit environment. It's really lacking, and people don't give it enough time to actually see any progression before they've kind of said, oh, well, you know, it's not for me, and they go and try something else, and they kind of go in this vicious circle. But progression doesn't necessarily happen in one session or 10 sessions or a month or 2 months. You know, sometimes it takes a little while, but the beauty of CrossFit is that people can learn new skills and they can pick up movements fairly quickly. So just for example, if someone comes into the gym and they give CrossFit a go for a week and they train maybe 4 times, we get people who can't even do a burpee in the beginning, and by the end of the week, after 4 training sessions, they haven't necessarily been working on burpees, but they've started to develop the upper body strength, and they can get from the ground up to standing nice and easily. And that goes obviously more advanced into kind of like more gymnastic movements as well.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly put. And that's with new people, obviously it depends on what kind of background they have as well. So if they have a fairly athletic background, they've been training at the gym, they have some level of strength and conditioning under their belt, then they're going to pick things up a little bit quicker. But if people are coming in and they've been sedentary for the last 5 to 10 years and they haven't done anything, then of course it's going to take a little bit longer, but everyone's still going to get the same neurological and strength gains in that early piece, whether they realize it or not. And that's obviously one of the beauties of CrossFit, but then also one of the things that kind of lets CrossFit down, in the sense we're doing something different all the time. People always say, like, I don't feel like I'm getting better. You can't necessarily see and track if you're getting better until we've retested your back squat, retested a girl benchmark, retested a workout. And because we're trying to keep the program varied as well, we can't just keep doing the same workout each Sunday and say, right, we're doing 50 burpees for time. If we were to do that, then you'd see changes within a couple of weeks straight away. But I know my old coach, he said something to me when I very first started CrossFit. I think it was about 6 months in. I'm just like, when's it all going to come together? And he's like, look, the first year of CrossFit, generally you pick up all the skills, you start to understand how your body moves and everything like that. It's not until you're about 2 years in where you start to actually piece together everything, when you start to understand your body really well. Your lifts start to come along. Okay, and 2 years is kind of the mark where CrossFit starts to work really well. And I've seen it firsthand myself, and seen it from a lot of friends and other athletes as well who started early on in their CrossFit days.
Actually, the progression one as well is the amount of times that I've done progression photos with people, and that's not something that we do too much in the gym, but someone has been training for a month and they're sticking to their food really well and they're training regularly. We might do a weight measurement and their weight's around about the same. Sometimes maybe it's gone up, and that's at that point then it can be really demoralizing and demotivating if someone kind of goes, well, it's not working for me. And it's only until you actually take a picture and see a picture sometimes that someone's body can change a huge amount in such a short amount of time. And that can normally be the motivation for them to keep going. Look, it's working. I can see changes in my body. Clothes are starting to fit differently. Now it's time to push on. So if you do ever feel like you're not progressing, come and speak to the coaches. We can help you with that. But again, like if it's kind of for vanity and stuff like that, then photos are always a good way to go.
Yeah, exactly. And just on that as well, like obviously the weight loss side of thing, we're looking at each other, or we're looking at ourselves every single day, and we're not going to notice small changes. Like other people will notice who haven't seen us for a couple of weeks, but if you're looking at yourself every single day, you don't see small changes until you do see a before and after shot. That's always, like Josh said, a good little motivation kick as well. And then on the actual specific CrossFit skill side of things, like the coaches, we do have a progression in our head. So if someone was to come into the class for the first time and we're doing a snatch, for example, I know in my head I need to get an athlete who's never done a snatch to do one of the most simplest parts, and that might just be a hang power snatch. Unloaded barbell, learn the technique and work on the whole MCI protocol. So work their mechanics first, make sure they get consistent with the movement, and then add intensity. So when they can show me they can do a snatch really well all the time, cool, then we can start to add some weight. Now, you might not see the progression, and if you are a little bit confused, like Josh said, come and talk to your coaches, but we see your movements progress. Okay, now you're getting good at hang power snatches, maybe let's go from the floor, let's add some more weight, and that never stops, MCI. So that definitely ties into the whole progression and progressive overload side of things as well.
That's good. So we'll move on. The next principle is overload.
Progressive overload.
Put them together.
Exactly. So just like we were talking about then, you don't come into the gym being able to back squat your heaviest possible weight ever. So if you've never back squatted, or if you've never done any strength training before, or high skill gymnastics, anything like that, then we need to build a solid motor control base first. So going back to that mechanics side of things, like, can you show us that you can do the movement really well first? Now, that doesn't mean that you just do it for one rep, like, oh sweet, yep, I can do one good back squat, and then yep, chuck some more weight on. Not the case at all. So you got to show us repeatedly that you can do it over and over and over and over and over again. And then once we know you've got a solid foundation, then we add some weight. Now, we might put it up to 95 pounds, and then all of a sudden your knees start to cave or your technique crumbles. So then we have to go back and work your mechanics again at the new challenging weight. Then show me that you can do it consistently, and then we can jump up the weight. And that continuum is the exact same for every single movement that we find in CrossFit.
I just find with overload as well, like, you know, intensity isn't something that's the most important thing when you first get into a training plan, but it definitely needs to come in at some point. So if you are training regularly, you're starting to master the movements, to kind of push your training onto the next level, intensity is something that needs to come in. And listen, like one of those like memes that you see, or one of those quotes, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. It's kind of true. Like, you know, if you really want to improve your fitness that little bit more, you want to get a little bit more lean, you know, you need to be kind of, after a workout, you do need to be lying down on the ground because you're completely exhausted, or after your heavy set of 5 back squats, you are completely messed up after that. So, but as Tom said, you know, that progressive overload is important, but you might be getting to a time now where you are moving well, you are doing it consistently, and the intensity is the important bit. So that's kind of like the overload part of it there. And that's something that obviously we try to push you on as coaches as well. Okay, so just the last one then that we've got here, well, it's kind of two, it's recovery and reversibility. Do you want to talk about recovery?
Yeah, so recovery obviously in every training program is super important. Like I spoke about last week, you know, if you feel like you're going through the week and you get to a Wednesday and your body's just feeling really beaten up, then you need to listen to your body, listening to some of the warning signs that it might give you. If you feel like, I couldn't push as much as I could then, maybe you're feeling a little bit overtired, maybe you haven't been sleeping as well, maybe at work you're not focusing, maybe you're getting all these little aches and pains, something like that, then you need to listen to your body and take a full rest day. Like I said, you're not going to miss out on anything. The workout, something similar is going to come back up again. And you need to make sure rest is actually what is going to get you stronger. Training hurts your body. You know, you have small muscle tears, you know, you're starting to like change your body. That's where you're actually hurting your body, and it's rest, good food, recovery, which actually makes your body stronger, helps you grow muscles, helps you develop a better body shape and everything like that. So recovery is massive, massive part of our training.
Yeah, and people hear this all the time. People go on holiday for 2 weeks and they might not do any training or just a little bit of training when they're away, and then they come back and they find that first workout really hard, and it's I've lost everything after 2 weeks. Listen, you've not lost anything in that 2 weeks. That's more of a mental thing that you're thinking about. You think you've lost it. Your body's not changing over those 2 weeks. I mean, unless you're completely destroying yourself. But that's when it's important to realize that is when you are recovering. And then obviously 2 weeks, anywhere up to a month, you probably won't see any changes, but anything kind of above that, then you will start to see some reversibility as well. And what I mean by that is that, if you go from training 4 or 5 days a week and mastering movements, and then you take 3 months off and you come back, yes, there's going to be a certain amount of reversibility there. Just to give you an example, obviously when I did my push-up challenge back in the day, I was doing push-ups every single day, did the 1,000 push-ups as the challenge, and I go and do Murph now or a separate challenge with push-ups, and I'm back exactly where I started. I'm not practicing it every day, so that's kind of reversibility. But
use it or lose it.
Yeah,
especially after that time.
But yeah, use it or lose it, but you don't lose it after a 2-week holiday. So
it's definitely hard coming back, just because you haven't gotten out of breath and you've probably been on the drink for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
when you've been on holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
So those first few workouts are always tough coming back, but give it a week of regular training again and you're exactly at the same spot.
And that's the good thing about what we do in CrossFit, is we work hard and we party hard as well.
Oh yeah, balance.
I partied too hard on Friday.
It was all balance, right?
We got there. Anyway, that's the end of our second podcast, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Give us some feedback in the gym. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, and we can try and add it in. Thanks, guys.
See you later.